Fortunate to be here. You've been fortunate enough to be on the same football pitch as the great man.
Yeah, he was in the same side as me when we played in a couple of exhibition matches, and it was always great to see. He always had an aura around him. His entourage was always with him, Des. One carrying his boots, one carrying his cigars, another with a briefcase full of money. So it was always interesting whenever you saw him.
He burnt the candle at both ends and in the middle as well,
Just a little bit.
Let's turn our attention to tonight, because the Liverpool side is a mix of experience but also of youth. So
yes.
you've been a regular at the academy. You've seen the progression of some of these players like Curtis Jones, Reece Williams, Nico Williams, all in the side tonight. What are their qualities?
Well, I think with, let's start with Curtis Jones. I thought he was outstanding the other day against Leicester. I think every game he's getting better and better. Of course, he played in the Atalanta 0-5 game a couple of weeks ago. He's one of the experienced ones now out of the youngsters, isn't he? Of course, a local lad. He's doing really, really well. Nico Williams, we've seen him on numerous occasions. A right back wants to get forward. He's improvement, and he's improving every single year. And of course, Reece Williams, we've seen him a number of times now. Big, tall, rangy centre half, can play, can step out with the ball. And personally, for me, it's brilliant to see them all. I talk about them all night, and you're very, very proud to see them on the pitch.
Reece Williams is ridiculous, because he was playing for Kidderminster last year. Now he's filling Virgil van Dijk's boots. An incredible story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he certainly learned the hard way at Kidderminster, but he wanted to go there. We know all the stories about what happens at Kidderminster, but he worked hard, he fought, he played at that level, and he's come back and he's getting his rewards tonight, and it's great to see him out here.
And Jurgen Klopp is getting consistent results with an inconsistent lineup. Well, that shows a sort of winning mentality through the squad.
Yeah, the mentality is very strong. The consistency is excellent, as you said. They've got the experienced players around them to help them out when a need be. But when we look back to the game a couple of days ago against Leicester, they played really, really well. When people were thinking about there may be an upset, I think they showed their strongest game this season, and that's always a good showing.
Thanks, Macca. Let's hear from a man who's going to be very important to this injury-hit Liverpool side, Joel Matip. He spoke.
We talked a lot last night about recruitment. We talked about Manchester United last night, but Liverpool's recruitment has been exceptional. And it's probably the most important aspect in any club, isn't it, really? Whatever your budget is, that is how well you spend your money.
Yeah, recruiting well and then coaching the players and improving. And I think that's been a massive part. I mean, who would have thought that Salah, a reject from Chelsea, playing in Rome, would have come and done what he's done? Mane the same, Firmino the same, Matip even, probably the best defender in that season when they won a Champions League. He just improves players as a manager when they come in. But the recruitment and identifying these players, as we spoke about before, Jota, they identify players and they say, that's what we want, he fits the bill.
Played a significant role, obviously, in bringing a lot of those players in. I'm sure he works very closely with Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, and that's the way of the world now, isn't it? You have people that go out and scout them and find out a bit about them, bring them to the manager and say, right, these are the options that we've got. And Michael Edwards has done a brilliant job. I think one is recruiting. That's, of course, really important to get the right type of player, but it must be so much easier when you're coming into a team that plays the way Liverpool do, that's got a real identity, you know exactly what you're coming into. And as Rio's mentioned, as Joel Matip mentioned, these players, they're all getting better underneath the manager. That's not a coincidence that virtually every player, because you can think of some teams around that virtually every player comes as superstars, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, what's happened? But no matter what, even if Liverpool brought in a real average player from, you know, a non-league team, they end up being, you know, capable players. It's quite staggering. You go through every single player, and none of them have regressed under Jurgen Klopp.
No, they're not necessarily buying superstars, but turning them into superstars, aren't they? You know, Michael Edwards, he was at Spurs and Portsmouth, I believe.
He did, yeah. He was an analyst at Portsmouth and at Spurs as well. And, yeah, obviously, you know, got the database ready of all the players. He was constantly looking at players, looking at formations, and obviously going to Liverpool, and he's become a main cog in what they do in signing players. I know Jurgen Klopp trusts him, doing the contract negotiations and also, you know, sourcing the players as well. But as Michael said, it's one thing buying these players at a decent rate, but getting them in and improving them is what, you know, I think Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff deserve a lot of credit for.
Yeah, there were a lot of concerns earlier in the summer, weren't they, at Liverpool, saying, oh, we're not. Fans were saying we're not buying anyone. They missed out on Werner, didn't they? And then obviously but Jota seems to have stepped into that role and
he hit the ground running.
Exactly.
He's breaking records, and I think it's about. I probably question whether they really were in for Werner, because Jota came around quite quickly after that, and they seemed very happy with that. But it's the way that he has that almost siege mentality you can imagine creating when Virgil van Dijk's got injured, for instance. I mean, you look at the stats, they've played 7 games since, won 6, drawn 1. Their defensive record have conceded 4 goals. I mean, 4 clean sheets, conceded 3 goals. It's improved even when Virgil van Dijk's out. And that's about a mentality, that's about creating that environment where the players think, actually, we're not going to suffer now because a big cog in our system's gone. We're going to improve, we're going to prove people wrong. And it's a huge thing. And then what it does, it creates even more self-doubt with the other teams that are chasing them.
Yeah, it also shows the absolute importance of having a coach like Klopp, doesn't it?
Especially in this day and age.
There are not many around, are there?
No. But in this day and age, you know, back in the day, there was a lot of, you get bullied into playing well, and if you didn't play well, there was cups and everything thrown in the dressing room. It was a very aggressive, era. Now it's not like that. No. People have changed. Life has changed, and I think Jurgen Klopp now, again, referring back to the Matip interview, he's talking about he can be hard, but he can also be soft, encouraging. You see him at the end of the game, putting his arm around everyone. Players like that. Players want to feel important, and he makes them feel.
I think that's true for most people in most walks of life, isn't it? Most of us respond to an arm around the shoulder better than we do kick up the backside.
You go to football clubs now, and I'm fortunate to be able to travel around and speak to clubs doing interviews or watching games and stuff like that. And within the clubs, you say, does anyone get around anyone anymore? Does anyone shout or not get physical, but
it's
get
almost
to that
bullying
point?
in the workplace. You could say, people would say that's
But what I'll say is,
unacceptable.
everyone says you can't do that nowadays. You can't do it. You can't do it. But he's living proof that you can do it with the right balance. You can still be hard, like Matip said there. But like the guy said, if you put an arm around the shoulder as well and cajole a little bit of love as well, you can do it. And I think players need that. They need that hard fist sometimes.
I spent time at the training ground when you could spend time at the training ground, and I've never seen a more harmonious train. It was unbelievable. Everyone was laughing, joking. This was when they were going for their first title in 30-odd years. The relaxed atmosphere, but obviously they're switched on when they need to be. But how relaxed it was, and that, how much the players were enjoying training and being a part of this setup. It's great to see.
Yeah, it really is. Well, despite their past success.